Hello, and welcome to the first of four sessions of Pulp Cthulhu, which is the largest pulp sourcebook for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. I'm running this to justify my buying the humble bundle of Cthulhu stuff that came out a couple months ago. That's my determination this year. If I spend money on a game, I need to get it to the table. So that is one of my goals. So we're trying this out. It uses Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. I am an old hand with the earlier editions, and so there are some changes in 7th that I'm going to be taking some time getting used to. And Pulp Cthulhu makes some, let's say, very modest changes to the rules. It's a light dusting to get the pulp system on there. And that may be something we could eventually discuss. But my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him. And before I get any further, hey, we use safety tools and pronouns in this game. So, like, if you want to like tune out now and stop watching the video, this is your chance to dive out and leave an angry comment. So I look forward to your engagement. So we are going today to be going through kind of the setup. We're going to be we've got pre-gens for the characters with set archetypes and occupations. Three of these are taken from the pre-gen characters for the campaign that they have out for Pulp Cthulhu. And one of them is one that I built myself using the rules. Just as a note, we're going to be like coming up with these characters. We're going to talk about conception. I'm also going to let you move around. I'm going to give you some extra points, and I'm going to let you move around some points here so you can tune the character as you wish. And I'll talk a little bit mechanically about things and why the numbers are the way they are in this if you haven't played Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. So this is, for our cats, this is a slightly pulpier take on Call of Cthulhu. It very much focuses on the 1930s with a more action adventure, two-fisted approach to things. That's kind of, I already kind of lean a little bit in that direction, but I'm glad to see this do that. Mostly for the game, that means there are some additional luck rules, there are some special abilities, and there's some slightly different ways they handle sanity. Very light rules changes. Most of what you get is a discussion of the pulps, a lot of scenarios, and some new discussions of archetypes, a couple new skills and things. Now, pulp can just mean, a two-fist adventure, but it also might mean mad science. There are a lot of sort of ranges of pulp. My pulp references are things like gangbusters and that kind of thing, but also Doc Savage and the Shadow. It's a slightly later period than we're dealing with in some cases, but that's sort of my touchstone. And in terms of what we're going to be doing, we're going to be tweaking these characters. I'm going to be asking about and establishing some connections between these characters. We have a patron sort of organization that I'm going to frame up, and we're going to start in the like right at the start of our next mission. I may spend a little bit of time asking some open questions to get a sense of like our characters' involvement with the mythos, what kind of jobs they've done before for our patron organization of Armitage House. But essentially, you're going on a cruise ship that is traveling from San Francisco to Shanghai. That is the basics of this start. I have no idea how long this scenario will take. It might be two sessions, and then we'll get a different scenario. I don't know. We will see. But well, that's the basic sort of format that we're going to be doing here today. In terms of tone, this is Call of Cthulhu. We've got cosmic horror. We've got nasty monsters. But these are things that can be often fought or driven back. And there's a sheen of action adventure. I want to see where I can get those tropes that we can play into for this. This is, of course, a game that is in a setting, time period, and so on that is particularly regressive. Those are not themes that I necessarily want to deal with. We're going to be talking about that in safety, but issues of racism, the tropes of tribes and primitives and things like that. Those are not things I'm interested in playing out, even though those are often key elements of the pulps. In the same way, there's a lot of elements of Lovecraft's stuff that we're not bringing on stage. We are feeling the theme, playing it out, but we're making it ours for the play. With that in mind, we do have a layered set of safety tools that we will be using. I played with all of you before, so I know you're familiar with them. But we do have that lines, veils, and ask first tab there for marking out lines on stuff we just don't want to see. It's not part of our play. Veils for anything that we would fade to black on, and then ask first if that's something we want to check in on. I didn't put in a romance matrix for this game because I don't think that's necessarily appropriate to the style of play, but if it comes to that, we can check in and ask on that. So feel free to add anything that you want to that list. Our second tool, of course, once we have that baseline of our cats and our lines and veils, is the X card. We use the X card, either this gesture, which I've never seen anyone make, or saying X card. Basically, the one thing I always want to stress with the X card is when you use it, the only question we really need to ask is like how far back we need to go to clarify that, what we need to kind of cut. You never have to defend or explain your choice of the X card. You can if you wish, but you are not obliged to do that. And I think the most of the things I've seen when we've seen someone X card something, it's because maybe we've started to head towards a line or a veil or an ask first that we haven't quite caught. Like we've missed that that's a thing. And X card is a good place to help us recalibrate. So X card is both for objecting and also for recalibrating. The last thing is, of course, this is an open door policy, meaning that if you have to leave, you have to step away, you are more than welcome to do that. It'd be great if you could tell us that you're going to be back or not back, but you're not obligated to. It also means that between sessions, if we get done with this and this is not the game you were expecting or not a game as it turns out that you really wanted to play, you should feel free to step away. Just send an email that you're not returning. You don't have to explain yourself. Don't have to defend yourself. Anyone, we are all too old to be playing games that we're not enjoying. I really, really believe that each day that I get older. So that is all on the board. Those are the safety tools. Those are the things we need to be aware of. I want to talk a little bit about system just briefly, so that we're kind of on the same baseline for things. So if you look at your characters, you'll see you have your various stats. Your stats are percentages. Sometimes you might have to make a roll. You're going to want to roll under. It's a roll under system. There are two characteristic rolls that are very commonly used, and that is a knowledge roll to represent what your character knows, to see if they have a particular piece of information, and an idea roll for putting things together, for assembling clues, for trying to draw an inference from something. Those are ones I might call for, or you might ask if you can go for that roll. We have sanity as a set of points. There is a darker green box next to your hit points, sanity, magic points, and luck. In that darker green box, you can record your current state for that. So whatever is in the lighter green box or a lighter box is your permanent. We have a dodge roll. It's recorded there as well. Now, you will notice on these various things, the stats, that there are two smaller numbers next to it. This game uses a base value, like a target value, for example, 50%, and then a half, which is 25%, and then a fifth. Basically, when tasks are hard, you will be rolling under your half number. It also kind of shows us a degree of success. If you make a roll for something and you roll under that fifth, that's an extreme success. And if you roll an odd one on the percentiles, that's a critical success. So those are kind of the breakdowns. I have not done the breakdowns of the half and the fifth on the skills because that seems nuts. They do have that on the actual character sheet, which is hideous for this. So just pointing that out, you'll have to make that calculation on the fly. You have luck. Luck can be spent to modify a percentile roll that you have made after you've rolled on a one-for-one basis. That's the big thing for that. You can also use luck to avoid fumbles. You can also use luck to reduce wounds and things like that. I'll come back to that. That's a mechanism that we may encounter, and I'll come to that if and when we do. Luck cannot be used on sanity rolls. It's mostly on physical things.
Also can't be used on luck rolls,
Yes,
sadly.
luck cannot be used on luck rolls. Yes. Fumbles. If you have a skill that's 51 or better, then your fumble is a double odd, is 100. If it's less than 50, then your fumble is 96 plus. Just telling you that as the number. You will recover luck at the beginning of each session. We do it like they do skill advances in Call of Cthulhu, meaning that you make a roll. If you roll over your luck currently, then you get to roll and add some points to it. While I have your luck listed there as both current and permanent, I realized as I was going through the rules that that is not the case. Your luck is your luck. Your luck can go above that number due to recovery at the end of session. So that starting luck number, you never have to worry about it again. It will change throughout play. The only other big mechanical change to Call of Cthulhu that I want to go through is that if you are making a roll that is not a combat roll, that is not a luck roll, sanity roll, those knowledge idea rolls, if you're making sort of a standard action roll like stealthing or trying to break a door down or things like that, you may push your roll. If you push your roll, then you get to roll a second time. You get to make a second attempt. And it literally is a second attempt. It means you're kind of pulling yourself back to try again and do it. You're going to have to describe to me how you're pushing yourself. If you do that and you fail on that second roll, bad things happen. So that's basically the push mechanic in this. There are rules for advantage and disadvantage. In this game, advantage means you roll an extra d10 and you get to choose which of the sort of two things you would want for your tens place. So effectively, you're rolling two for the two dice for the tens place and one die for the ones place on percentiles. If you have disadvantage on a roll, you do the opposite. You are rolling those extra dice and you're taking the worst of those results. We will come to that as we come to that. That is not too big a thing. You will notice that you have checkboxes by your skills. Whenever you make a roll with a skill, success or fail, doesn't matter. Go ahead and put a check by it. That is going to allow you to make a roll for skill advancement at the end of the session. Normally it would be sort of end of mystery, I think, but I can't remember, but we're doing it end of session since we've only got the 4 sessions to play with. Are there any questions about any of those skills before I go on? I do want to note that I have taken some specializations out. For example, some of you have like brawling and blade. I've lumped those two together, like brawling and melee, like armed weapons, just to keep the keeper simple. I've lumped those together, so those skills have that. Why does nobody have any computer skills? Because that's kind of a mad scientist punch card wild thing. That is a skill that they have in the game for very oddball stuff. Uh, any other questions about any of the skills? Okay. So what I'd like to do then is go and I want to ask you, you have 25 points to distribute amongst your skills. But the first thing you should do is this. You may move up to 50 points of your skills around. So if you want to steal from one skill and put that in another, you can do that now or later. Make a note of that for yourself. And then after that, you have an additional 25 points to throw in. That's just to give us a little bit of leveling here at the start.
One thing we might all know is that we are on a boat, a big ship, and we
Yes,
all our natural swim capacities of 20.
that is a thing to note, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the most basic thing. It's a consideration. Uh, uh, pilot applies to piloting and sailing, just for simplicity of this game. So we're going to go across the character keeper. Please introduce yourself, your pronouns, character, what you're imagining for their pronouns, and what is your conception? How are you picturing them? Will, I believe we're going to start with you.
Yes, so I have Jules Robin, whose archetype is the Greaser, which I believe gives me a bonus die in some situations when making electronic repair, mechanical repair, and heavy machinery rolls. So I'm very good at that sort of thing. So what I'm thinking for Jules Robin is, yeah, she was indulged by her industrialist father in her little hobbies and pastimes and obsessions and fascinations with all the actual grotty work that goes down there. And her mother never really approved of it, but he was happy for her to, what use is this money if not to allow my daughter to do whatever she bloody well pleases. Yeah, so she was able to mess around in the factories, the lines, become a bit of a jack of all trades in mechanical repair and everything like that. Turns out she had a real knack for it, and she's been increasingly drawn to some of this fascinating scientist. He'd be dead now, wouldn't he? But he was the early 20th century, and it was a shame she never got to meet him. This Nikola Tesla chap, these strange energies that he hypothesized could be harnessed. She believes that such a thing just requires the right kind of receiver to for mankind to really conquer the elements. And I don't know how much further to go, but perhaps something very awful has happened to Roburn Senior.
Okay.
Uh,
Let me ask you this. So the premise is that all of you have been working at least loosely affiliated with this Armitage House, our organization, and at least for a year, maybe longer. So something happened that would have drawn you into this. What do you think that was? What happened?
I think that Roburn Senior um, I think the whole family in business fell apart while she was indulging her hobbies and pastimes as her father slipped further and further into madness after going to see a certain play.
Mm.
What is it? Something de genre. Uh,
Yes.
The King in Yellow, yeah. And yeah, the whole thing, baffling decisions. He was the whole family business fell apart when it was discovered that he was trying to build some sort of suicide booth. It's a disgusting piece of work. But yes, Jules believes that something turned her father that way. No, he was simply mad.
Okay. Excellent. All right. I think that gives us a sense. I'm going to come back and I'll have a couple more questions for you about, we'll get some connections and I may ask some other open questions, but I think that gives us a good sense to start with. Let's come next to Puckett.
Okay, Jake Malone is a journalist who focuses on investigating mostly organized crime, although he does dip into police corruption, corporate corruption, and so forth. He could drink pretty much anybody under the table. Not only that, strangely enough, mobsters respect him. Perhaps it's a little bit of fear, but he's been known to drink with Al Capone. He's been known to drink with cops. He's been known to drink with fugitives. And he gets the best goddamn stories you can imagine. He files away every rumor that he can find because you never know what might actually be useful in journalism. Sometimes something that sounds absolutely out of this world might turn out to be the truth. And if you're curious about how he came into contact with the strange, well, there was a group of mobsters out of Detroit, and they were trying these weird signs on liquor barrels to try to get them past security in the U.S. Customs, and things got weird. Customs agents started they started talking about just things that were absolutely impossible. They started talking about kings. They started talking about deities that nobody had ever heard of. And all these names sounded odd. But, the one that they kept coming back to was this thing named Hastur, whatever it is. So yeah, I followed up on that and found some cultists. Some of them wanted my head, and well, what's a man with a 45 supposed to do when you've got a cultist coming at you with an axe?
Let me ask you this. You have, as a talent there, the psychic power of clairvoyance, the ability to project your perceptions, pick up things at a distance. Is that something you've always had? Is that something you picked up after some incident? Is it just kind of simple second sight, or is it something else?
Well, you say clairvoyance. I just think of it as journalistic instinct.
Okay.
Smelling out a good story. Yeah, I've got a nose for trouble.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I like that.
so it's instinct. And
Okay.
sure, every once in a while I pick up on a bad vibe in a place. I know when the fight's gonna break out or when something's gonna get bad or get bloody or mean. But well, that's got to just be life experience, right? I mean, this clairvoyant stuff, that's hokum. This is just good old fashioned earned journalistic instinct and has absolutely nothing to do with the time when I was a kid that I could tell my mom was in trouble when I was out in the fields. And I ran back and found out that her water had broken and I had to, I had to drive the car even though I could barely see over the dashboard. But that's just that's just like, a bond between mom and son, right?
Okay. I like that. I think that gives us a strong sense of who you are. We will come back with some connection questions here. Uh, Next, Horst, tell us about your character.
I'm Horst Hiem, and I'm playing Gukesh Domaraju, who is like is it called Gorkhas that fight for the British Army?
Gurkhas.
Gurkhas. Okay, and let's see. I don't really have a other than that, like
Okay.
Gukesh D fought for the British in the First World War. Probably got the British citizenship, I would assume. Moved to England. No, or they didn't.
I wouldn't worry about it too much, but I wouldn't place any safe bets on Britain treating its
His soldiers
Yeah.
decently. Okay, foreign soldiers
Yeah.
decently. Move to England is what I would assume.
Yeah.
Could have had a wealthy patron or something, officer who spoke well for him, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Certainly post World War I, there were a lot of people from the various British colonies that arrived in England there. And yes, if you had someone who you had worked with as a patron who might have spoken with you. And how did you then come to America?
That is a good question. I would assume that Gukesh has a certain set of skills that is useful. Like a bodyguard, maybe, security. And America is the land of the possibilities, endless possibilities.
Absolutely. So one of the things is that you've got what's called dime store therapy. That basically means normally there's the like to treat people's sanity issues. There's the sitting them down on the couch and going through the long process and Call of Cthulhu. You have the ability to do psychoanalyze to help people by just sitting down and having a drink with them and chatting with them or whatnot. So that's an element there. What is it that happened to you that like made you aware of the weirdness and got you involved with Armitage House, with this American sort of anti-cult organization?
That is a good question. Maybe we can tie it to what is Puckett's character called?
Jake Malone?
Jake Malone. Maybe your newspaper had, hired some kind of bodyguard to, I don't know, to protect you because, you were dealing with, I don't know, mafiosi, I heard, and cultists.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they hired you to make sure that I didn't shoot somebody else, but
yeah,
you might be more of a minder trying to calm me down sometimes, but I mean, absolutely, we can have worked together at the paper. We might know each other from the war even.
Maybe. And then, since the cultists started running at you with machetes and you were shooting them, I would assume that was my first contact with the supernatural.
Absolutely.
Could be.
I like that. That sounds good. You've got a couple of other nice talents there, allowing you to dive for cover easily and reduce difficulty versus stealth. And I think that last but not least, that brings us to Paul.
Hello, I'm Paul, he, him, and the character I'm playing is Latif Gamal. Latif is he goes by the name the Gentleman Jinn. He's a young master thief with skills to match his boasts, quick on his feet and always on the move. He escaped the slums of Cairo at a very young age, moving to America, where he's been operating as a gentleman thief, modeling himself from the sort of great thieves of literature. And I think if it's okay with Will, my sort of tie-in with Will's character is that I think maybe Will's character has caught me stealing from her father's mansion, maybe at some stage. And yeah, since then we've hit it off as friends. Clearly being caught, I returned the item I was stealing.
Oh no, I let you
And
keep that because you let me. I've always wondered, what does Father keep inside of his desk? He has a rather heavy lock. Could you show me how you open it?
of
Fascinating.
course, a skilled lock is but mere ease to me. Yeah. And so yeah, Latif is your classic rogue archetype. He has a sword cane, master of disguise, fast talker. Yeah, general rogue.
Excellent.
So,
Are you picturing sort of mid-20s, older, younger?
no, I think quite young, mid-20s, mid to late 20s.
Okay. So we've got a couple of contacts then established between our pairs here. Let me come back to Jules then. The four of you have, in the last year, through various means, ended up on the West Coast, possibly in several places from the Seattle down to San Diego, all along there. What was the case that you four just finished in Los Angeles? What was going on, Jules?
There were 1930s Los Angeles. Is that right? The gang? No, is it the 50s? It's the gang when the gangsters are in Las Vegas.
There are Las Vegas, but there's also a strong mob presence that starts out slow in the 30s, but definitely accelerates through the 40s and 50s.
I think what it was
A lot of Nazis in Los Angeles in the 1930s, actually.
okay. Well, if there's a lot of Nazis, then I think it was all about these boat clubs, these sailing, these California types who off the coast, their beach resorts and that kind of things, and the strange ceremonies that they were having at night, which were linked to the disappearances of several indigent workers, and fishermen, really.
Okay. Beach ceremonies, private boats, yachts owned by these folk. Jake, in the course of this investigation, who was the innocent person who got caught in the middle and died?
Holly.
And who is
Holly
she?
Martin. She was a stringer at the LA Times. She was trying to break into the industry and thought that maybe this would be a good way to do it. She had written me about some curious things that she saw going out on the coast, going out there. And, well, Los Angeles. If it didn't exist, hell, we'd have to invent it. Yeah, she bled out in my arms.
Classic. In the rain, dark alley. Perfect. Gukesh, when the four of you did this operation and kind of busted up this cult, you saw something horrible that the others didn't, and you haven't told them. What is it that you saw that you haven't quite been able to express to them?
So I don't know. The others haven't seen the the weird fishmen, it was just rumors, but I saw them. They were looking at us from under the water. And if we had stayed just, a split second longer, they would have come out. But I don't know, started the powerboat or the 1930s equivalent and raced away, never looking back.
Absolutely. Perhaps their strange singing carrying into the night as you drove the boat away. Latif, did you guys succeed? Did you fail? Was it a mixed success? Like what was the end result of this job?
I think it was success mixed because it came at a lot of collateral damage. Yeah, we had 2 yachts colliding, numerous people, drowning. Yeah, some of them may have been innocent, some of them maybe not so innocent. But yeah, a lot of collateral damage, made the news.
A loud mess, but the cult was smashed, and that's a kind of a victory. So the 4 of you, when you got back, you would have been given just a short time before you would have received a telegram from Armitage House saying that they needed you in San Francisco ASAP, and arranged for a car for you. And we would have done the drive up the California coast. It's a pretty fair distance between LA and San Francisco. San Francisco lies significantly more northwards, and we would have seen that drive before you arrive there. The city kind of fog covered as it does, Alcatraz out in the bay. We would have done the full like panorama of the sights of 1930s San Francisco, a city with a long history of vigilantism and other unsavory things. But you would have arrived essentially at one of the cover offices for Armitage House. And this is an organization loose, but it has offices across the US where people share information and where they work to try and stop strange threats, or intercept them or find out things. And you would come up the stairs into essentially a import-export office that is the cover for Mr. Cutter, who seems to be the San Francisco field office head. It's cool here. We're in early December when this goes on. And Cutter, you can see, has been sent a copy of your basic report on what happened in Los Angeles. And he, looks, you're probably all still a little tired, a little weary, maybe even, a bandage or two on you from that last mission. That's how fast the turnaround was. And Cutter will say, I am so sorry to have to pull you out of LA and put you on something so soon after your work, but we've had something happen and it's become time sensitive. As you may know, we keep tabs on strange items, artifacts. We track where some of those things go. We ourselves store or destroy certain objects. We have learned that a set of those objects have been taken and have been passed on. These are dangerous items for various reasons. And unfortunately, our knowledge about who is involved is scarce. I'll tell you what they are in a moment, but let me tell you what we know. We know that someone aboard the Coolidge, a cruise ship which is departing in just a few hours, has taken possession of those items. We strongly suspect that they are carrying them to Shanghai with the intent of passing them on to another person. The objects in question are these three things: an ancient ceremonial dagger called the Dagger of Thoth, we recovered it from some sacrificial ceremonies, and it seems to have some additional investment in it. Second is a tome called the Book of Duga Sambata. It is a Tibetan tome, blasphemous and corrupt. And lastly, a canister of film, movie picture, large millimeter film. We don't want anyone watching that film. Portions of it, and he'll look over at Roburn, are said to be from the filming of a stage play in New York.
And she'll just murmur, you know, like Le Roy en Jean underneath her breath.
We're going to put you on the Coolidge. We want you to figure out who has the items. We have prepared a facsimile of the Dagger of Thoth. We would like you to swap that in for the real one and retrieve the real one. And we would like you to, by whatever means is necessary, destroy that film. I suggest perhaps acid or something in the canister so that the person who has taken this might not notice it. We don't know how they're keeping it. We don't know where it is stored. We don't have any information on that. But we need you to figure out who is involved, who has them, make that switch, destroy that film, and when you get to Shanghai, we want you to, if possible, figure out who they are passing these items on to. We strongly suspect that there is a network involved here that spans the continents. And this may be an opportunity to find out more. That being said, these items are dangerous, and dealing with them, particularly the dagger and the film, are the paramount concerns. Now, here is the situation. The Coolidge has 3 classes of cabins. I can put you in whatever class that you wish. First class, obviously, very nice. It has the most access on the ship. Special class is essentially second class. These are rooms that are shared generally with a couple of other people. And then third class is in the down below. I don't think that any of you, but he'll actually maybe turn to you, except maybe perhaps you, Roburn, maybe have traveled on a cruise ship before. If you are in first class, you can go down to the lower classes, down into special and third class. That direction is viable, though obviously they will try to discourage it, try to discourage people from slumming, as it were. But it is much more difficult to move from one of the lower class cabins or areas into the upper class areas, for example. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Jules, which class cabin would you like me to arrange?
Well, I would never turn down a warm bed and clean sheets. As much as I like to get my hands dirty, I think first class would be rather nice after what we went through in LA.
All right. What about you, Jake?
Seems like we should have somebody in every class, doesn't it?
It's up to you. I trust your judgment on this.
After what happened last time, that's rich coming from you. You know,
I think that's a question of you questioning your own judgment rather than me.
last time I was on a boat, I was in what amounted to steerage. They were just trying to get us over to Europe. So yeah, put me down in third.
Okay.
I think people actually, no, let's go second because people will buy that. A reporter traveling in second.
Sure. So special class. Gukesh?
I'm used to, sleeping in rough conditions. Get me the third one.
All right. And Latif?
The gentleman Jin does not believe in classes. I can go wherever I want to, so put me in first.
Absolutely.
If I need to go low, I can.
Excellent. Give me 30 minutes to get on the teletype and get this set up, and I'll have a car take you to the docks then. And he will get that set. And essentially, you were told to kind of pack your luggage. So you have all of your things. You have your passport. You have your guns and other weapons, broken down. This is not a period where those are particularly searched getting onto the boat. So you can certainly keep that tight. I noticed, Jake, that you mentioned having a gun. So you may feel free to mark that in. I think we have the stats for 45 automatic on Gukesh, so you can do that.
Thank you.
So let us take our first break, and then we'll come back and we'll put you on the docks on the arrival with the departure of the Coolidge. If you wish to see it, you will notice I have tabs in the Keeper now with maps of the boat, so you can see how things go. I am going to do this pause. So just to check in, so we're all on the same page before we go too much further. Here are the things that we've established as hard lines for play. Homophobia, racism, sexual assault, slavery, torture, graphic depictions of blunt force head trauma, and transphobia. And then a veil on anything that involves harm to animals, harm to children, or sexual content. The veil being a kind of a fade to black or oblique, discussing off-screen kind of thing. So you are given a little bit of time to get your things together, to change into whatever outfit you're going to wear, and to head down to the San Francisco docks. Mr. Cutter provides you with your tickets, as well as a box which contains a facsimile of the Dagger of Thoth, which will pass, as he puts it, very basic inspection. And he will also supply you with a vial of a very potent acid, with the possibility of using that on the film. He will say it duplicates the effect of film breakdown, the vinegar and acid breakdown that certain films occur. So it will not seem entirely out of the ordinary. And you will head on down San Francisco Bay. It's here, getting sort of middle of the afternoon, warm, lots of gulls around. The Coolidge is a 650-foot long vessel, multiple levels there, decks. One of the things you'll notice here is that Lowell cannot tell aft from stern, or any of those terms. So I'm going to be saying things like front of the boat and back of the boat, which sounds kind of dumb, but that will be me. But you will see that there are lots of people arriving here. The ship is scheduled for a couple of days out. It will stop over at Honolulu briefly, and then from Honolulu across the Pacific to Shanghai. And I think right away, as you arrive, luggage, you will see the first major difference. People who are first class and special class, there are beautiful gangways, there are pursers, there are stewards, there are people helping you on, getting you up onto the boat as you wish. And Gukesh, you are going to the back of the boat, where you are being loaded on. There are several, largish groups of people. It looks like there's some missionaries, including a priest. You'll see that there looks like there's a group of, they're carrying their instruments. They look like they're Malaysian band members. You get the impression from kind of overhearing them talk that they thought they would make it big in America, and they did not. There are a group of Chinese, apparently returning home, who kind of keep to themselves tightly. There are at least a handful of other people that you maybe a reporter, maybe some other sort of just general people, like trying to make it back to Shanghai, or to maybe this is a place where they can make it big, but have just enough money to get passage here. So Gukesh, what are you doing, like, in your observations as you head in here?
Have a look at the priest. That
Okay.
seems like they're missionaries led by a priest, or is the priest like separate from them?
Why don't you, what do you think you want to roll with to kind of read the situation?
I would like to read the hold that maybe, or the role that the priest plays in that group.
Okay. Let's have you roll psychoanalysis.
Cool, that's my strength, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's you're good at reading people.
Psychoanalysis, 60%.
Yeah.
Blimey. Let's see, D100. Boom.
Boom.
10.
10. So you can tell that he is not with the missionaries. He is on his own. You will notice that he has some materials with him that are in Chinese. So you have the sense that maybe he's been to China before, has some experience there. Whereas the missionaries, like to your eye, clearly they have no idea what they're getting into. Um, and you definitely get the sense that uh, he's not regretting leaving America, like the sense that he is heading back to Shanghai for personal reasons, some kind of tragedy or something that is haunting him. Um, I think that also you're back here. You will see, even as they're getting all of you kind of arranged, you'll see that there's all kinds of goods being put into the cargo storage here. Looks like there are a couple of cars, some Packard touring sedans, some race cars. You can see that there's a herd of dairy cows being put on there.
I
Looks
love
like
that you're setting everything up for like a crazy action scene on the boat.
absolutely giant barrels of French cognac, a massive deconstructed pipe organ that's apparently being delivered to Shanghai, tractors. Uh, you will see that there is a 6 foot tall sort of metal green case that is accompanied by armed guards that is clearly they're being put in. It doesn't look like a safe. You're not sure what it is. And then, of course, there are hundreds of trunks and sea chests and animals, parrots, all of those kinds of things. So it is just a massive operation as they get it into all of those cargo holds. And you are regarded suspiciously, as everyone here is, as you are put into the third class area. The third class cabins are essentially rooms with about 8 bunks to a room that are down here. There is a common area for food, which is you can tell is going to be the most basic of food stuff. Are you a practicing Hindi Muslim? Like, what are there? Do you think you have food restrictions or not? How do
Yeah,
you
I
imagine?
don't, obviously I don't eat cow.
Mhm.
Think that's about it.
Yeah, you definitely get the feeling. There's a lot of people talking about that, and maybe even like you know one person who's clearly been on these kinds of trips before, who's talking about here's what you want to avoid. Talking to the Malaysians who and stuff, and kind of going on about that. But you will get settled up in there. On the other hand, towards the front of the ship, Latif and Jules. Puckett, can you put your name in the um, listing?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. You will, be greeted. There is the uh, chief purser, Martin Dungus, who will come and greet each of you and check your names off, check your tickets. Notes that you're kind of late additions to the roster, and says, but all the first class cabins are excellent. So you don't have to worry about that. And I think the thing that will strike you, Jules, as people are kind of loading on, you will see a couple of very fancy cars pull up, drivers get out, and you will see 2 groups that clearly drove in separate cars, but are kind of together. You'll see a young man and woman uh, who, as they come up, she will loudly announce herself as Virginia Ripley, and she has her arm through the arm of her beau, Chad Peterson, who is like, like looking around with a sort of dumbstruck look on his face. They, she's going on about she's very excited to go back to Shanghai. When she was a little girl, she was raised there, and now Chad, you're going to get to see it. And he's nodding along kind of happily. Behind them is older businessman Charles Astor. He has his daughter and sons with him. He's making a big deal about the slowness of the line, very much stating of the New York Astors as he goes along through there, and they are all getting set up. I think Latif, certainly you are eyeing everyone, and if we were to pick the ripest of targets, those groups are definitely the wealthiest there. But sort of coming up along, you'll see a older Spanish gentleman who presents himself as Senor de Almacan, who signs in, and there's also Alex Dasher Cobb, who has a batsman with him of sorts, who is carrying a brace of hunting rifles and that kind of equipment. And if there's anyone even the least bit attractive, he is certainly talking up his big game hunting experience as the line goes on through there. Last but not least, you'll see a Chinese woman. She is flanked by a butler. When she checks in, she identifies herself as Dr. Sung, and that this is Mr. Wing, her servant. And she speaks excellent English, and then speaks exquisite Chinese to her manservant as well. And they head up. Jules, any people you want to talk to, anything you want to do, anything you want to set up here as we're kind of going up the gangway, getting things set?
I think that perhaps I think that perhaps once upon a time I've made the acquaintance of Charles Astor. My father and him had a shared interest. As he's talking about the Coolidge's slowness. The Roburn engines were of course far superior to those Rolls-Royce the Coolidge is using. It's quite a shame what happened to those things, and I'll say, why, Mr. Astor, it's been rather a long time, hasn't it? Several decades. It's me, Jules Roburn. Last time you saw me, I would have been about yay high and in my knickerbockers.
What do you want to roll to make a good first impression here?
I am absolutely terrible on all social skills, having picked the mechanic/pilot.
Yeah.
I
Don't forget, everybody can move some points around.
Yeah. I felt I'd for once I would leave the social manipulation to other people. I think what I actually would roll is maybe my credit rating, frankly.
That seems fair. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's ultimately about I'm not as rich as I used to be, but it's how well I have managed to bring out the fine clothes rather than my usual grease stain rags. D100. That's 29 under 30.
So just a hair under. I think he will look and he will say, and you see him like go into his memories, and like he's heard something about Reburn, but he then just kind of wipes it away. So he clearly doesn't, maybe hasn't heard the full story of your father's decline. People say, oh yes, Jules, very, very nice to see you. This is my daughter. He'll introduce his daughter and sons, and this is my I don't want to say ward, but friend of the family, Virginia Ripley, of the New York Ripleys.
What are the New York Ripleys? Wow.
And
Oh,
she'll,
this is rather interesting company.
yeah, she'll come over and she goes, and this is Chad. And we are engaged to be married, and we are very excited to go on this trip. We are very much looking forward to it. And Chad just kind of nods along as she talks.
Yeah, and is this your first time on a ship across the Atlantic, Chad? The Pacific, sorry, even.
Yes. I went to Chicago once.
Yes, yes, I hear it's windy.
It was not New York. It was quite a long train trip. Yes.
You're right. It is not New York. Yes. And
Yes.
I catch Virginia's eyes and say, what a lucky girl you are.
Yes. Chad's family are in cattle.
Well, I hear that this vessel, as much as this is a slower vessel, I hear that this vessel even carries some cattle.
Yes, and she begins to go on about some story about livestock trading and the breeding and trade contracts in Shanghai that she's clearly heard secondhand, and she's sort of mangling the story. And Chad looks like he's kind of like he would very much like to move along and have a drink, kind of thing.
Mm. Well, I think having spoken to the two of them, she's quickly forming the opinion that they're not in any way her targets. Mr. Astor might be more, but I have a feeling that he's probably taken advantage of this to step away with his family, and leave me talking to Virginia and Chad Peterson.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Latif, what about you?
I'm going to engage with the purser, and I'm going to say I need access to the ship's safe because I have a very valuable artifact that I need to stow in his good graces.
I will say, certainly, would you like me to have a person take you there now, or shall I come by your cabin later and we can make the arrangements?
Yeah, come by the cabin later. We're late arrivals. Let the other guests. You attend to the other guests that have booked way in advance. I don't want to hamper them. But yes, come by the cabin later on, and I'll accompany you to the safe, so you can store this artifact for me.
Absolutely, Mr. Kamal, I will be glad to do that, and he'll kind of direct you up to your cabins. Is it significantly sized? If it's
No,
small,
it's small, small but valuable. And clearly, while everybody on this deck and above, I trust implicitly, I'd feel a lot safer if this item was stowed under the safe custody of the captain himself in his safe.
absolutely. Would you like to roll psychology or spot hidden?
I think spot hidden. It doesn't matter. I'm going to make the roll, but let's quick roll. So I can type D100 in there, can't I?
You can just hit the button at the top if you want.
Indeed. And that's
So-
a fail.
Yeah. So I think you're looking around like maybe you're hoping you might catch sight of someone who might be listening to this, might be overhearing. But I think the crowd is just so dense here that it kind of gets lost in that. But the purser, says he will come by this evening before dinner, and we'll speak to you and make arrangements on that. I will come myself and take care of this situation.
Excellent. Thank you.
Jake, you are going up in special class, so you are up front. There is maybe a little bit less, fancy treatment, in the sense that every one of the first class passengers, like people are there to take care of everything for them. Here, they're treating you well, but they have much fewer staff. And you will see someone that you know, but only through photos. And as you're getting on, I think you'll see this woman Phyllis Barnes, who seems to be some sort of teacher. She speaks with some people off to the side, with the idea that clearly she maybe is on board ship to provide some tutoring. There's a young Japanese businessman who's also in special class. But the one that catches your eye is you will see Stuart Bunny Bates. Let's have you make a knowledge roll for me.
It had to be Bunny, didn't it? That's 42.
42. So that's definitely under your knowledge, right?
Let me double check real quick.
Yeah, you get a knowledge education roll of 70. So yeah. You know that he is a gangster from Minneapolis, from the Minnesota area, who kind of vanished a couple of years ago. There was an incident, and a bunch of the gang members got senior people got grabbed up in Minneapolis, but he was notably missing. Hasn't been seen in a couple of years.
I'll sidle up to him and say, "Fancy seeing you here, stranger. Last I heard you were, well, they said you were dead, but they never found a body. How you been, Bunny?"
Stop, and he looks at you and he says, "I think that you must have the wrong person, mister."
I ain't trying to jam you up, Bunny.
I ain't one to be jammed up.
Listen, we're all fellas here. Maybe you heard me. Jake Malone?
Ooh, let's have you roll. Let's do fast talk here. Kind of put your foot
52.
in here.
And fast talk is 70.
It goes. Oh yeah, you're that reporter from Chicago. You messed up those Detroit boys.
A little bit. But like I said, I ain't looking to jam you up, but if you got any scores to settle, you want to put me on a lead or something like that. It's maybe I could help you out at a distance, and you'd have the satisfaction of knowing that somebody who did you dirty is going to get done dirty in return. Hey, you a drinking man, buddy? And I'll pull out my flask of rye.
I don't drink with a man until we can sit down at a table, look each other eye to eye. But I will have a drink with you later, Mr. Malone, was it?
Jake Malone.
Look, I am a man who has turned over a new leaf, and I am broadening my horizons, heading on a slow boat to China. I don't think I have any scores to settle, at least none that I haven't already dealt with. But we can sit down and have a chat. Maybe I can point you in some kind of direction.
Always looking for a story, and I'll look forward to having that drink with you.
All right, then. He'll nod his head and he will will head off. And all of you will get loaded onto your vessels, into your rooms, beautifully appointed in the case of first class. We've got a little map there of what on that Coolidge page 1 down below, what the first class cabins look like, have their own shared bathroom, bed, just very nicely done. There can walk out onto the promenade, and you are set up there, Jules and Latif. We will assume that your cabins are adjoining, just to make things simple. And we will see there the essentially the special class are less nice, but still decent. You are bunked with Mr. Sirota, the Japanese businessman, Jake. And Gukesh, you are bunked with these missionaries.
Bad luck. Hope they shut up. I will take out all my guns and clean them.
That will somewhat shock them, and one of them will say, sir, may I ask why you have so many guns?
Because I have a lot of enemies.
I see. Well, Jesus saves, and we'll walk away. And I think they give you wide berth after that.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, perhaps a little nervous of the potential heathen with a lot of firearms here on the vessel. And there are lots of people down there, Kukesh, and you have some chance there to kind of look around. What is it that you want to do?
Well, I mean, I need to get to know more or less everybody to single out that the items could be with them. So I start with, after I cleaned up my guns, I start with a Malaysian band. And I go over. Are they in the room? Are they in the what's it called? Socializing area?
The common area that's down there?
Common area. And I just asked them, wouldn't it be nice to, to have a little music down here in this shithole?
And they're like, absolutely. If we get done dinner, we'll be pulling out our things. We've been told that we have to keep it down after 10, but we can play, and they'll chat with you, pass you a cigarette, have a chat. And you definitely get the sense, I think, that these are just jazz musicians. They really hoped to make it big, and they just could not get a break here in the States.
And Shanghai is just just like a place where they like a hub.
Yeah, they say we're probably gonna head to Manila next. One of our friends has a cousin there, and it's a decent place, and I've heard good things about it. And plus, you got the lots of different folk there, Americans, Spanish, lots of different tastes.
Well, best of luck to you guys. I'm looking forward to the music, though.
let me have you make another psychoanalysis roll here as you're kind of moving amongst people to kind of spot people that you think might be worth checking out. And don't forget when you make a successful roll to make a checkbox by it.
97 is not a fumble because my base skill is 60. Still bad.
I think that the only thing that you will notice is that well, there are a number of Chinese. There's a couple of brothers who, will essentially start to play Pai Gao, and some others that are traveling. The smallish group of four Chinese that are dressed fairly similar, they go over and kind of plant themselves in a corner, and they keep to themselves in a way that feels more than just insular. But I don't think you get too much of a read beyond that. Does that seem fair?
Very fair.
Okay. I think, though, that there is a moment when you are kind of watching that you do see one of them kind of turn around and kind of like look at you because maybe you're staring just that hair a minute too long.
Cool.
Jules, you will get unpacked. You can move around the promenade, check things out. I think that Latif is on one side of you and Senior de Almacan is on the other. And you will, can kind of check around and about here. What is it that you want to do?
I'd like to rack my brains to see if Dr. Soong shares any interest with me. I'm quite interested in, another woman, female scientist, perhaps. And I notice a 60 in both science, math, and science physics. So I'm more than just a greaser. I am someone who is, quite has a very high education score, one might say.
So essentially you want to approach her during dinner or after dinner or something? What do you think?
I would even be. I'm not very sociably skilled. I think that Jules is not like bad looking with her appearance of 45. I think she's just terminally like awkward and abrupt, and what you saw earlier was her stretching her social skills to the best approach. So I think she's actually just going to, she's going to go on, get changed back into something like quite, her cleanest like work shirt, and not fit in with the first class anymore. And she's going to just go and knock straight on Dr. Soong's cabin door.
And the door will open, and you will see that it is Mr. Wing that opens the door and kind of looks at you a little suspiciously and doesn't say anything.
Hi, is Dr. Soong in?
And you'll see this woman. She's kind of coming out of the bathroom, adjusting her earrings, and she will look at you and she will gesture to Mr. Wing to let you in. She says, "Do I know you?"
Jules Roburn. And I stick out my hand, to shake it, and just say, I'm an engineer, scientist. I just thought, those gals have to stick together. I thought I'd say hello to and try and find out what your area of interest is. I'm a physics girl myself.
Well, why don't you roll kind of science physics to kind of introduce yourself as an academic here?
Not an education knowledge. Okay.
You got physics.
Yeah. I was just going for the one that's bigger. But that is a hard success.
Yeah. She will say that it kind of listens to you, and she says, that is very interesting. I am a little familiar with physics. I have a dabbling in that and mathematics, but I am primarily a historian and linguist.
Oh, the arts. And you see that Jules like just completely like deflated. Well, I suppose there ain't many I don't know what it's like in Shanghai, but there ain't many gal historians over in the US or the UK either, I guess. So good for you. And she like awkwardly punches her shoulder in a way that I imagine Dr. Soon just sort of looks like, what the fuck?
Yes, she says, I can't imagine there are many women with your knowledge of physics in the US.
Yeah, yeah, there are very, very few, I mean, I'm just really lucky that my dad let me get my hands dirty, I'd, I would trade these all of these first class cabins for a spot down in the engine room, but I guess this is quieter, But anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. What is it that you're a historian of?
Primarily Chinese history and other related Asian histories.
Oh, like what's that place called? Tibet, right? I hear so much about that.
I am familiar with Tibetan history as well.
Growing up, all I ever heard about was, the spooky stuff from the Orient, but I guess it's not as exciting as they make it out, right?
There are many stories that are told that are used to confuse and cloud the truth.
Well, I can see that you're getting ready for dinner.
I am.
I'll see, I think I'm all about done. And you look over her and she is like, badly tucked in shirt, like a dress that she's not worn in years. And just completely, and she's like, well, I'm all done. So I'll see you down there. I'd love it if you could join me for a drink or something. Do Chinese women drink? I never don't know any.
I do drink.
Great, great. Well, they're on me.
Why don't you make a spot hidden?
Yes. This look has got to end at some point. That was a 38 under 40.
Okay, so just under. I do think that as as you're talking, Mr. Wing kind of remains hovering in the area. And then in particular, you see that there is a small traveling case that's kind of laid on the like desk that's in the room. And he definitely moves such that he is between you and the case to kind of block your view of it, there in the doorway. And it seems unusual to you. Very deliberate.
Yeah, I make a very careful mental note of where that is, and think that maybe if I whisper a secret into the sands, the jinn may appear to answer my ears. Yeah, the dental engine, of course.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's come to Latif. Latif, you get yourself into your room, get yourself settled, and you're checking what the door locks are like. how everything is secured, how hard it would be to go out through the window, all of those kinds of basic things. And you wait for the chief purser to come so that you can put that in the safe.
I just want to check with the other players. The replica dagger of Thoth that we have. My intention is to store the case for that replica dagger with the purser. Does anybody object? Excellent.
I wonder what the purpose is.
So we can always say it was stored with the purser.
I see. Yeah.
Just in case we acquire or swap a dagger, ours was always with the purser.
Nice.
Yes. So yeah, I will walk with the purser with this.
Well, here's the thing. You wait, and it gets late. Like he said he'd be there, say 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, he's not there. 3:30, 4 o'clock, he doesn't show up.
Well, we didn't pay for this kind of second-class service.
Exactly.
We want top-rate, first-class service. So in a mild huff, slightly miffed, I will go to the purser's office.
You will go to the purser's office, and you will see there is one of the stewards for the first class there, and he's clearly looking over some things, and maybe looks a little bit harried. And he'll look at oh yes, sir. How may I be of assistance to you?
The purser was meant to come to my cabin at 3 o'clock to store an item of great value, and he has failed to show up. I'm quite disappointed.
Yes. Well,
where is he, man?
I think you can get this without a psychology roll. I think he lies to you and says, the purser was detained, unfortunately, with some issues with one of the forward first class cabins. But I'm handling things here. I apologize. He did not leave a note for me. Mr. Latif, I'm guessing?
Mr. Gamal.
Mr. Gamal, perhaps I can assist you with the matters that the chief purser was going to handle.
Indeed, but come, man, what could have possibly dragged the purser away on such urgent business? I'd like to try and persuade him to tell me what's going on.
All right, let's have you make that roll.
And now it all goes wrong, doesn't it?
Yes.
But my persuade, let me find persuade is 34. Maybe this was not a wise move, but hey, let's give it a roll. 12. Get in there, winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah. Don't forget to mark that. He says, it is a rather large ship.
Indeed.
And Chief Dungus, we're trying to locate him. We think he may be below decks. There may have been some issue there that we're not aware of. We're trying to track him down. I've spoken to the captain already, so I'm here to handle the chief purser's duties.
Very well.
And he says, I make every apology. This is completely unlike the chief to not follow up on these things, and I can assure you that we will do everything in our power to make sure that your service is not diminished.
Quick question: are we underway yet, Lowell?
Yeah, you have left the docks.
So,
yeah, we're 4 hours out to sea. You've passed the island of Alcatraz, leaving.
So we okay. I'm going to come to the conclusion that we haven't left him. he is clearly on board. Very well. I will hand the steward. Well, no, I'd like him to open the safe. Can he?
Oh,
Does,
he
does
says,
he have the keys?
why don't we go down to the storeroom, and I'll have you, and he'll walk you essentially, and there's an area that has the safe, that has, you know, a larger safe and then a smaller safe, and he will go and he will actually call up on the blower, and a few minutes later, the first officer, Mr. Schramm, will come down and will have the key and the combination. And Schramm seems very irritated, like this is not what he needs to be doing, and to have to come down here to do this and so on. And he certainly is muttering about Dungus' dereliction of duty. But they will open the safe, and you will see, of course, there are boxes and jewelry cases and all of that kind of thing in there. Beautiful, glinting delight. It's like a little cornucopia here. And why don't you make a locksmith roll?
Very well. Locksmith of 60. Yes, indeed I did.
Given the time, you could open this safe. Like, you look at the lock, you're like, oh, they should have updated that 3 years ago. This is not the safe you want when I'm around. But they will put the
Yes,
box.
it is one of the daggers used by the 50 daughters of Dionysus to murder the sons of Agripptus from antiquity, they say.
And I think both of them give you this blank look.
Excellent.
And the steward says, "If you say, sir."
Indeed.
If you say, and they will put that in there, and they will sign a receipt, ticket, and hand that to you.
Excellent.
Do you think you'll be needing to open it during the voyage, sir?
Clearly, I hope not. I may need to check upon it to see if the sea air hasn't corroded it, but possibly only one check throughout the entire voyage, I feel.
And there's a little conference between Schramm and the steward, and then the steward will come over to you and say, if you need to open it up, come back to me and I will take care of it. When the chief purser turns up, I will have him personally come and give his apologies to you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much for your service. Yes, good service. First officer, good service by this man.
Oh, yes. He heads off. He's still
Fuming.
Fuming. This is the first 4 hours, and already things are going wrong. He seems very upset by that. Jake, let's come to you. What is it that you want to do?
Is there a common area for the special class?
Yeah, I think so. Let's take a look there. The special class cabins are down there on, I believe, deck D. Oh no, that's staff. Special class are with little triangles. So yeah, you're there on deck B. A number of cabins. There's plenty of areas there in between the cabins for people to mingle. Several lounges there. There are bars. Drinks are provided there. Perhaps the champagne flows a little less freely than it does in the first class. But you are still well treated there, and there are people sitting and reading and relaxing there.
I would like to use my clairvoyance, or excuse me, my journalistic instinct,
Okay.
to see if I can smell something unusual or detect something odd, perhaps really story worthy.
Okay, let me pull up the Pulp Cthulhu rules, and I'm going to take a look at how they describe this particular power. So it's the first time we've used that, so let's check with that. Pulp magic.
Basically, I'm trying to open my mind to the psychic maelstrom.
Oh, I think that is more than fine, and I like the idea of that. Let's see here, psychic skills. Let's have you make that roll for me.
17 under 65.
Okay. Would you also roll me a D6?
D6. 2.
2. So you need to spend 3 magic points.
All right. Magic points are down to 11.
I think that you can already feel there has been a death on board this ship. I think like that is the shiver that you get, is someone has already been murdered. I don't say murder lightly. You know that someone has deliberately taken someone else's life on board this ship.
Can I tell if it was targeted or more or less just because of happenstance? Like was somebody intentionally killed, assassinated, or were they just in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Let's see. I think that what you will sense is like a malevolence. And you would never say this, but an inhuman malevolence. Does that seem like fair information?
Good enough. So most likely some kind of human sacrifice. Awesome. And
Yeah.
we're on a boat with it on our way to China.
Absolutely. With a stopover in Hawaii. So, things happen. What does it look like when you do that? Is it do we just see you concentrating? Is there anything like visual? Like what do you imagine?
I think you see me looking out over one of these common areas, leaning up against a railing, smoking a cigarette, carefully looking at each group, not literally smelling the air, but just using my instincts to see who seems disturbed, upset,
I think
little off.
Yeah, it is definitely something that's just in the air. You're not sure where it's happened on the ship, but I think you definitely will feel that. Let's take our second break. Let's take 5, and then let's cross some paths, and then we'll come back. So a couple of notes. One is, so I've realized that I've kind of conflated third class and steerage. When I'm saying third class, I'm actually talking about steerage, sort of that there is a third class set of cabins. There's a lot of material in the pre-made scenario, so I'm trying to work that out a lot. It's like trying to remember all the train stuff and running horror on the Orient Express. So
That's exactly what I was thinking. So I was looking at that picture and I was like, oh, this just reminds me of being on the Orient Express. And I was thinking you must have had lots of stuff.
Yeah. I also want to really quick, for anyone who might actually be watching this, I'm going to briefly screen share the NPC tab, just so people can see some of the character pictures we've chosen. But primarily so that YouTube reads this as a high definition video. Because that's all you have to do is screen share once and it will upload it as high def rather than standard def. So let us come back to our group. Gukesh, do we want to do another kind of once round, or do we want to bring the group together to like chat? How do we want to do this, you think? What would be your preference?
My preference, I mean, at some stage, obviously we have to share information, so you know, it makes sense. But I do have a couple of leads. I have the, you know, the kind of safe that is there. I do speak Chinese, so I could what's it called?
Eavesdrop?
Eavesdrop, the Chinese guys.
Which do you want to do?
I think I would like to talk to the security guards at some stage. They're not standing there around all the time. I would assume that they eat at some stage or listen to the music.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to talk to them.
Okay. Essentially the people who are kind of overseeing things down here. Okay.
No, the ones that are guarding there were
Oh,
like
okay.
bodyguards
Yeah.
in front of the safe.
Yeah. You will go and essentially there were a couple of armed guards that oversaw it being brought on board, and looks like two of them have remained on the vessel, and they don't actually like guard the place where that's stored, but they have the sense that like they're on call, and maybe pretty much their job is going to be sitting around here for the whole trip and then guarding it when it's taken off of the ship.
So they're just hanging around.
Yeah,
They're not
they're
standing
down
there
in
guarding. Yeah.
down there in steerage, kind of there.
I sidle over to them and I say, you know what, guys? I had the same job. This is a dream job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, watching a stationary object, you know, when I was in the war, that's totally different. Dangers everywhere. But here, I mean, who would you be suspicious of? The musicians, the missionaries? Easy earn money is what I'm saying.
like you know, uh it's easy to pretend to be a Jesus freak, but those people, like, I overheard them, and they clearly listen to the radio broadcasts and go to the festivals and are heading out to follow the dreams. So
That's true, but anyways, you know, do you know what's in the thing?
what do you want to roll to kind of get
Fast
them?
talk, maybe persuade.
Fast talk or persuade feels right to me.
Let's see what's higher. Fast talk is pretty good. Yeah, let's fast talk them. 19.
So that is success. So there'll be this pause, and they'll say, well, we rolled it down to cargo hold 7, loaded it up in there with a bunch of the other junk, but like, I honestly have no idea what's in there. It's not as heavy as it looks. Somebody said it might be stacked with like money for the Chinese, like to fund the fight against the Japanese.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, there's all kinds of shit going down now. They say that that's going to be the spark that sets off the war here in the Pacific. And the U.S. has been, I mean, they've got that Chiang Kai-shek guy kind of, on a string, but it's bad in China right now.
Well, war is hell, I can tell you.
What about you? What are you heading to Shanghai for?
Well, it's a place. I tried my luck in the States, and now I'm in the business of security, guarding stuff. Essentially, what you guys are doing.
I hear tell that, a man with a gun in these kind of times, like in the cities, Shanghai and other places, there are warlords and there are wealthy people trying to keep their wealth there. These are times that you can make a little money, but if the whole place goes up in flames.
I'll be the first who's out there. Trust
Okay.
me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, and you'll talk to them, and it's very clear that this was an odd contract. Like they didn't meet with anybody. They were kind of hired through a third party.
Hmm.
They picked up the box from a location and
Suspicious.
they brought it here, and they're just to ride along and to confirm delivery. The weird thing being that the instructions for the delivery, like who's going to pick it up and all of that, is and they mentioned this is like vague.
Hmm.
Like we would have expected more specificity for when we get to Shanghai. But we already got paid, so it's not like we're afraid of getting screwed. There's just a final bonus pay
Hmm.
and a free trip to China.
Well, could be something criminal.
I think they'll look at each other. Nope, nope, don't know anything about that. Nope, nope,
Sure.
nope, nope,
Of
nope, nope, nope.
course.
Jules.
Does Dr. Sung join me at dinner?
Yeah, she will sit with you at dinner. I think that it's a weird table because I do think that you're about the same age as Virginia Ripley,
Yeah.
and you chatted with her, and I think she does bring herself and Chad over to the table to join you.
Yeah. Miss Ripley. Do sit down, and she starts bustling and like doing all the things that the servants are supposed to do.
Okay. Oh,
And yeah,
it-
yeah, yeah.
the,
Sit. She pulls you.
the waiter will come over. The waiter will come over, and it's like there in an instant to kind of stop. You don't have to do that. That they'll take care of that and everything, and they kind of sit you down and get everybody set.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you could join us. I saw that was a rather smashing car you had when you arrived. What was it? Bentley?
Oh, it's a Packard.
A Packard? I'd love to have a look beneath the engine of that. It's rather my hobby, Well, hobby, pastime, profession.
Well, I know that Mr. Astor has a couple of Packards that he's shipping over that are down in the cargo hold.
Really? What do you think we could have a look?
Maybe we'd have to ask him, but I don't see why not. I mean, give you a chance, and you're of the Roburns. I've heard of your family.
And pain look on Jules' face for a second. Yes, and what have you heard?
Oh, and you see her do that thing where she's trying to she clearly has heard, and she's heard that your family has money, but beyond that, it has gone in one ear and out the other. So she's like,
Yeah,
oh, did very well, and a variety of industries and such.
yes. Well, father was a very, very talented man, cunning mind. Drinks the glass of wine, like quite. Uh, yes. And I actually don't think I have any play here. I was,
Okay.
I'll just set that up for later. I was more wondering if Dr. Sung would snub the boorish,
Yeah.
English woman.
Dr. Sung definitely like she's polite, she's restrained. You kind of are intriguing and throw her off. She clearly does not care for Miss Ripley and Mr. Peterson. And she just smiles and nods. She does that thing where she goes into that very smiling, pleasant, I'm going to get out of here in a moment kind of thing.
I will reach my hand across to Dr. Sung and I'll say, but Dr. Sung, you're a historian, right? Do you ever go out on field expeditions? Get in the mud, as it were.
She will say, I have gone out into the field on several occasions. It is the study of history in China is not a discipline that many have treated with any sophistication. You know about the turtle shells?
They go around the turtle, I think.
We have discovered in recent years that objects that were found that were discarded, that were thought were simple, perhaps garbage like shells or things like that, in particular these turtle shells, in fact, have etchings and markings and symbols on them that where in the past people thought they were meant nothing, that in fact they were how some of the most ancient of the Chinese dynasties recorded the oracles and divinations. But no one takes it seriously. They're still thrown away, discarded, or, crushed up to be made into concrete. There's no respect for history these days. They are fools, and they do not realize what they step on.
Jules actually is interested in that. She's going to raise her hand and say, like, well, I'll drink to that, Miss Sung. And, knowledge should always be. Knowledge is important. Knowledge is what we pass on. And she leans in. I believe that there are many pieces of knowledge that mankind has lost over the millennia, the centuries, powers that we once must have been able to command, and that perhaps such things could be found in those discarded turtle shells, lost by what people call progress. But I think that women like me and you will make the future by building it on the past. And I think we've completely lost our two socialite.
Absolutely.
Probably smiling politely next to us.
Would you please make an occult roll for me?
Sure.
You have 25 in occult.
25 in occult. It's 100. Can I push the roll?
So you can push the roll if you wish. With the possibility of failure is big. Alternately, if you wish to avoid the fumble, you can spend 10 luck points.
10 luck points to avoid a fumble, or push to, in all probability, get the equivalent of fumble due to a missed roll is essentially the math there, isn't it?
There it is, the math.
A push roll is essentially a fumble. It's bad.
Yeah.
The worst thing that can happen here, and I know that you could prove me wrong, is not as bad as, say, pushing my roll on a leap from a burning ship kind of thing, or face off a fishman. This is a purely, I'm going to push the roll.
Okay.
So close. if I could spend luck on a push roll, I would spend it.
So I think there is that moment when you're talking, and I think you've had maybe just a drink or two too much.
Mhm.
And I think that in the course of it, you're talking about science and knowledge and things like that. And I think that you say some things about things that are hidden, some occult knowledge stuff, maybe even a reference to the Yellow King. And I think that like her face goes flat. Like clearly she thought you were an interesting, intriguing, kind of goofy young woman, but like her eyes narrow, and you can see that any kind of demeanor of amusement has gone, and she will say, "That's very interesting. You will excuse me, won't you, Mr. Berman?" And she stands and she just nods, and she will head off. And I think that immediately Virginia's like, well, oh God, thank goodness. Seemed like such a bookworm.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there is an awkward rest of the evening of the dinner spent with Ripley just wittering away,
Oh
and
yeah.
Jules like drinking and trying to and like actually like terminally bored by all of this socialite conversation.
Latif, you're muted.
I was going to lay the charm on heavily on Virginia. Yeah, and maybe in a sort of a wingman style to Jules, who clearly wants to spend more time with the Doctor.
Kind
So
of show up a little bit after. We'll say like as Dr. Sung has departed, just because of that fumble. I think you will show up at the table. And Jules, you feel kind of a little bit saved when Latif arrives.
I will interrupt. I will finally manage to get a word in edgewise with Virginia by, sort of standing straight up and going, what is your last name again? Okay. Latif Gamal. Oh, Mr. Gamal. Yes, Latif. Come on.
yes,
Yes.
Virginia, Chad, if you don't mind me using your first names.
Oh no. Oh.
Have you traveled much?
And Virginia will. I think you get again from Chad. Well, I've been to Chicago, but I think Virginia will talk about how like her father was a businessman in China when she was born, and they lived the first 7 years of her life there, and then they came back to the States. And she will talk about, she's been to France and she's been to England, and she went to Canada, but that would just and she's traveled quite a bit. You can tell that this is something that excites her, that she thinks she's very, very cosmopolitan.
Well, I will allow and think that I'm also well traveled, unlike Chad.
Let's have you make a charm roll for me here.
Okay, I have charm 60. So still a large chance it can go wrong. No, I have not overstepped my mark.
I think that certainly the rest of the meal, Chad does kind of nod from time to time, maybe drinks more than he otherwise would, and most of the conversation ends up being Virginia talking with you, asking about where you've been and how exciting that must be.
Indeed, it is. Excellent. That's lined up our man for a game of Baccarat, where I can clearly fleece him for loads of money because he is slightly inebriated.
And I think we do see that bit just a little bit later in the casino with you and Chad. Chad getting a little more and more desperate, and even worse, Virginia maybe laughing at him a little bit.
Poor Chad. Poor Chad. Maybe you should go and stay with his cattle.
Jake, what about you? You can certainly
like to-
mingle with I mean, the special class and the first class people do mingle.
I want to try to get the word to everybody that I don't know who, I don't know how, and I don't know where, but there has been a murder.
So let's assume we see Latif counting his winnings. Jules there, and you come sidling up, Jake. And how do you explain this to them?
Well, I want it to seem casual so people don't make the connection that we're all working together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll kind of, as I walk by, I'll whistle at Latif's winnings and say, "You were on a tear, weren't you?"
Indeed. Indeed I am.
Did
And
you
hopefully may
leave any
long
for the rest of
continue.
us?
Well, I don't want to brag, my friend. I don't want to brag. Well, yes, I'm sure I can get you in on the game. You're not too late. Not like the time of the methylated spirits market that you got in late on, Jake. But yes, I'm sure you can get in on this.
I'll kind of frown just a tiny bit at Latif's familiarity in using my name. Say, "Wow, you have made an absolute killing, haven't you?"
Some could say that. Yes, yes, I have made an absolute killing here.
You gonna put any of that in the safe? You're just gonna
Yes, yes. Clearly, if it grows any larger, this winnings pile, I'll have to get well, I would get the purser to look after it, but a steward was doing it instead. The purser seems to have disappeared.
I wonder wherever that purser could have gotten to. I mean, I bet somebody like you is with all the stuff you have to store, bet you're mad enough you could just like murder him.
Well, I wouldn't use such a crass phrase as that, my friend.
Oh, of course. But I mean, you know what I mean. When people get angry, sometimes they, well.
They do. I mean, I heard he was in the lower decks. Maybe it'd be worth catching up with the purser there.
Might have to look even lower than that.
I'm sure I know a man that could do such a thing. Let me get on it.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of clap you on the shoulder and say, "Keep up that lucky streak."
It never ends, my friend. It never ends.
And we'll assume that information, like the message is transmitted successfully there, just for to hand wave. So, Latif, is it you that sneaks down to talk to Gukesh?
First thing I'll let Jules know, because that's quite easy within our sort of class thing. But yes, I will sneak down to see Gukesh, because I think he could be quite handy in the bowels of the ship.
Let's have you make a stealth roll. Assuming you wish to not be seen.
Yes, I will make my excuses from the Baccarat table, and so I need to give good old Chad some time to recover his winnings. So let's make that.
He's probably stumbled out back to his room at this point.
short of a bob or two. Okay, here we go. What do we have? Oh, that's degrees of success to a large degree of success.
That is an extreme success. So, Gukesh, you've kind of been talking to these guards. You've had a meal. You're out kind of wandering the hall there. And I think from out of nowhere, Latif is there.
Thief.
Thief or Latif?
This is crazy. It's like a magic trick or something.
Well, they do call me the Gentleman Djinn.
Hmm.
Our friend Jake has discovered that somebody has perished
What do you
aboard.
mean? Killed? Died?
Died. Let's use that phrase. Killed, possibly. I don't know Jake's abilities that well.
Hmm.
Let's say died. But some other information me and Jules discovered is that the purser may be missing down in the hold.
I'm adding one and one together. The purser has been killed. Right?
You may be right, but we do need to prove that.
They would
At
have
least
to.
gather some evidence.
Where could the body be? Where was the purser last seen?
The purser was last seen. Where did the steward say he was last
The
seen? When I
steward's
played him?
description was very vague.
It was.
And in fact, you're not sure if he was saying the lower decks thing just to kind of cover or what. In fact, I suspect the read you got on it is they don't know. He certainly must have been seen when they pulled the gangway up, and seen after the ship launched.
We could be adding one and one and getting 4 at this stage. Gurkesh.
What else do we have? I have a couple of suspicious Chinese guys. Keep to themselves. That's all I have. And there's a box. There's a box that is lighter than it should be, and the guys guarding them have very vague instructions as to when or where to hand it over.
Just to confirm, Lowell, is this box the large thing that we saw being loaded?
You saw that like 6 foot tall, big green box with the guards. Yeah.
Yes, that is that. Well, is it Gurkesh, is it?
Gukesh.
Gukesh. Gukesh, I think that box requires some investigation.
Yes.
It's a good hard lead you found there, and I think we should investigate further.
It's in what's it called? Bay 6 or something? No, 7.
Bay
Hold
7 in the hold.
Hold 7.
So I think like if I may say mechanically and meta for this, I think this is one of those things where you're going to have to spend some time kind of saying things to be able to get down to there. But that's certainly a thing that you can do the next day, especially when people are occupied in various things and maybe not all here by the sleeping areas and stuff. Sound reasonable?
Sounds reasonable.
I'm going to cut forward a bit. You will return to your various rooms, crash, and we're going to cut to the next morning. And Jules, you have gotten up and are kind of getting ready to figure out what to do this day. And you will, as you're in the hall, hear like commotion, a disturbance, and I imagine you will follow it, and you will see in one of the other first-class cabins, you'll see that there Looks like the first class steward is there. Looks like one of the shipmen are there. And you'll see Virginia is there. And she's like, "Where is he? Where is he?" And
Who? Who are you talking about, Virginia?
Chad. And you look and you see this is clearly Chad's room. And you will see this clothing just kind of strewn there on the floor. The room is empty. There's this horrible kind of smell that's in the room. But the thing is, the way the clothes have fallen, the way the shoes are there, all of that, it looks like he just vanished from his clothing. It's just laying like it fell, like a Russian doll bits dropped to the floor of the cabin. And that is where we're going to take up next time. Sound good? I would like to do a quick stars and wishes. Next time at the start, we'll do the luck gains and we'll check out the skill gains and we'll get those things. I want to check over the mechanics on that, make sure I get that right, but we'll do that right away at the start. Again, Puckett will start for you and I an hour later next time. And for all of you in Europe who have the earlier time change, you do not have to worry about that. We will start at this time. So let's start with Jules. Stars, wishes.
Big stars to you, Law. You know, I can see that we're about to get into some classic Cthulhu scenario. You know, big detailed map, lots and lots of cast of NPCs, vast amounts of detail. I'm here for it because I think you do it pretty well. You know, in terms of like keeping it loose enough without getting absorbed in the minutiae of it all. And you know, stars to. I like that we've all gone to the different areas of the ship. Stars to everybody else for carrying this investigation because I am not going to be very good at the social investigation parts of any of this. Yeah, I will bumble through. Yeah, and wishes. I was thinking I'd like to do weird science, but I know that weird science, like what I kind of imagine is that whenever you don't see Jules doing stuff, she's tinkering on something.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wondering if we could hand wave, like, you know, that whole it takes you 2 weeks, 10 days kind of thing to be more like, I'm always working on something. And then when I need to come up with it, like, I can roll that rather than like, yeah. Does that make sense?
That seems perfect to me.
Cool.
Do you have a copy of that, the Pulp stuff?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, just look through that, and we'll hand wave some of that because I think it'd be fun to have that.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's the thing I need in 2 weeks from now when I'm on a boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now this is a Pulp game. You ought to be able to wire it together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my thing is just that how incredibly in demand the gentleman thief skills are. Like, who would have known that this was the key class to have on this ship? It was the rogue, because I needed to go have a look at that box that Mr. Wing was keeping hidden as well. So I imagine we're going to get lots of clues that ultimately Latif is the only one who can actually verify.
I like it. Jake.
It has been way too long since I was playing a Cthulhu game of any sort, so glad to be back at it. This group is one of my favorite to deal with Cthulhu games, so I'm thrilled with that. I love where the investigation's going already. You know, we're stuck on a boat, malevolent forces. Jules is, well, putting her foot in her mouth and like, you know, and Latif's just being suave as all hell. And Gakesh is just like that, like the bonding with the guards. I love how all of this is fitting together, and we're each playing to our character's strengths. It's just, I cannot wait to see where this goes, because I'm sure it's not going to go any place good for any of us, and I can't wait to get there fast.
Okay. Awesome. Also, really like you using the clairvoyance. Let me just say that. I was really appreciate that you went right away into that and allowed me to push the clock forward on some things in an interesting way. So I really appreciate that. Anything wishes wise?
Well, I just looking at that NPCs tab, I feel like at some point Jake's got to go to the ship's doctor and explain he's got a headache because an angel must have fallen on him.
Okay.
So, you know, just,
Okay.
typical bullshit.
We'll get that on the on screen next time. Gakesh.
Stars to Lowell, great pacing, good exposition, but we got there in a 4 session scenario. This is a great point to stop the first session. Wishes, obviously some action scenes on the boat. Like, I love boats. Being on a boat, another star. Being on a boat is always cool. Boat, trains, confined spaces that move. And yeah, wishes some kind of crazy. I mean, it's Pulp Cthulhu, so there will be some kind of swinging from, I don't know, ropes and chandeliers and driving the car over the boat and stuff like that.
Awesome. And Latif.
Really good pace and lull. Allowed characters to grow, and I did really like all the characters. I liked Will playing the greaser. I really like Horse picking the gun bunny, because you don't normally do that, Horse. So that was nice to see. And what a great backstory, Puckett. What a great character. Jake Malone, I've instantly got this image of this sort of hard-boiled gumshoe sort of a journalist. So yeah, really great characters. I sort of know them already, and that's really good after such a short sort of amount of play. Wishes, just more of the same, lol.
Yeah.
Again, I think Jake's clairvoyance really opened it up, and the speed massively increased. And I will with Will. I think there's lots of things my character needs to do. So that's just farm and XP extraordinaire.
Yes. Awesome. I really enjoyed this. I like all the characters very much. What you've done with the pre-gens, I'm very excited about that. I am going to stop the recording.